Rules before we get out there: need to remain seated at all times while we're on the river. Again, it's my first day, lots of logs, lots of stumps floating down the river here. If I hit a log or stump, someone's going swimming. It looks terrible if I don't bring everyone back. So I don't want to lose anyone this morning. Need to keep, I'm sorry?
Go slower.
Go slower? No, go ahead. Come.
No, I'm just saying speak a little slower.
Speak a little slower, no problem. Unfortunately, I only have 2 hours and I have lots and lots of stuff to go over. So those rails, we want to keep everything inside those rails, please. Cannot smoke on the boat, cigars, cigarettes, vapes, anything of the sort. Real important, life jackets underneath the seats there in the event that we do need them. Built like the Titanic, shouldn't have any issues. We should be good. Everyone good with all that?
Sounds good.
Perfect. We're gonna get up and get on a plane, go fast for a little bit. Any hats, any kids, anything that might could or will blow away, y'all just hold on to that, please. Everyone ready?
Yep.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, tell me if this thing cuts off. I brought batteries. It'll just black out.
Okay. white-tailed bird.
Yeah.
I can't tell from right here. It's either a bald eagle or an osprey is what I would point towards. Yeah, we have a big osprey nest that's up here on the left-hand side, so most likely that's what that is. The river that we're on here is called the Pearl River. It starts up in Jackson, Mississippi, about 200 miles north of us there at the Ross Barnett Reservoir. So everything here is fresh water. It's all rainfall and snowmelt that we have throughout the year. Anyone local to the area? Okay. A couple of y'all. I know the rest of y'all think I'm nuts when I say snow. we get it every few years. It's enough to get on the ground. It'll shut everything down for us. Hurricanes, no problem. Drive through them. Snow we won't touch whatsoever. Anyways, just north of us there around the city of Bogalusa, Pearl River splits up into 3 tributaries. So we have the West Pearl, the Middle Pearl, and East Pearl. We're on the west side here on the West Pearl River. About 444 meandering miles long, dumps out into Lake Bourne right there. Did anyone come from New Orleans this morning? Okay, so what lake did y'all come over?
Pontchartrain.
Lake Pontchartrain, absolutely. So just east of Lake Pontchartrain there is Lake Bourne. Then we have Lake Catherine, Chandelier Sound, the Gulf of Mexico. So about 8 miles to Lake Bourne, about 30 miles to the Gulf of Mexico if we were to go in a straight line. And even though we're that close to the Gulf of Mexico, everything here is fresh water, only flowing one direction here, not a tidal swamp where we are. About 99% of the land on our right-hand side out there, all privately owned. Plenty of houses and camps along the West Pearl. Absolutely beautiful out here, right? Why would you not want to live right here along the West Pearl? It floods, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we moved.
All these houses, they're sitting on a natural ridge actually. It's about 15 feet above sea level. These did not get water from Hurricane Katrina. So these were a few that were spared. Of course, as we get closer to Lake Bourne, what are we closer to?
The lake.
Yeah. Closer to the lake, closer to sea level, right?
Yeah.
0 elevation. So as we get closer to the mouth, certainly going to have more flooding down that way. Now about 97% of the land on our left-hand side is all going to be owned by the state. We call that the Honey Island Swamp. And why do we call it the Honey Island Swamp?
You get honey from it.
We get honey from it. What makes honey?
Bees.
Honeybees. Lots and lots of honeybees. It's also an island. It's about 20 miles long, 4 miles wide. The other side of that 4 miles is the state of Mississippi, so that's our natural border. Altogether about 35,000 acres. Being owned by the state gives us a place to go out there hunting, fishing, camping, crawfishing, frogging, all our fun outdoor activities. So personally, I like to live off the land as much as possible. We have white-tailed deer, feral hogs, squirrels, raccoons, opossums, turkeys, rabbits.
Don't mind, I'm gonna put this
We have
in
about
here.
100 black bear these days. They're starting to make an increase. And we also have a large cat that's been roaming around.
There we go.
So not certain yet if that cat's a puma or a panther. It's more probable being a Florida panther. They have a migratory range about 400 to 600 miles, so right on the cusp there from Florida. A very similar ecosystem to that in Florida as well, right? Now, of course, where there's one large cat, probably gonna have a few extras roaming around. I have personally not seen it. Wildlife and Fisheries has game cameras out here that they're monitoring, stuff like that. Now, if y'all look along the tree lines here, you can kind of see a scum line. That's our winter high water level. On the left-hand side, it's about 18 inches above the water, where we are a little bit more visible to see on that side. So the river height today is at about 7 feet. Obviously not a true 9-foot difference right there, right? So where that flood gauge is, it tapers down, creates elevated levels. Of course, as we get closer to Lake Bourne, closer to sea level, so that water has a lot more area to dispense out through. All right, any questions so far?
What kind of fish do you have in the river?
What kind of fish? Yeah, so all fresh water. We have large and smallmouth bass, perch, brim, crappie, sockeye, catfish. We have gar, paddlefish, and sturgeon. All going to be predominant out here in our river. Any other questions real quick? All right, we're going to keep moving along. Unfortunately, this is not Disney World. Nothing's pinned up. Everything out here is wild. So want to keep your eyes peeled along the banks, the shorelines, any trees, logs that are here in the river. Those logs should definitely have turtles up on them. Those are red ear and yellow belly sliders. Have soft shell turtles, common snapper and alligator snapping turtles. Have big wading birds, herons, and egrets. You might find a bald eagle out here. Again, just keep your eyes peeled as we're roaming down the river here. All right, we're gonna keep moving along. lines hanging off trees.
Yeah.
You have not. There's an orange one just off the back of the boat here. There should be a blue one coming up here on the left, as well as a yellow and red one as well. So those are all fishing lines. They're tied to a tree limb there. We call those limb lines. So it's a single line, single hook, single weight, trying to catch catfish on those limb lines. More specifically, channel cats. Those channel cats get to be about 10 to 30 pounds out here. We do have flats, tabbies, and blue cats. Those get upwards of 100 pounds.
Wow.
So we'll use trot lines for those. Those run from one side of the bank to the other. Have a hook every foot or so, weighted down to the bottom of the river. Louisiana state record for largest flathead, 114 pounds. Mississippi state record just broke a few months ago, 133 pounds. So quite big catfish. We'll also use big hoop nets. It looks like a hula hoop net strung along it. In front of that hula hoop is a tapered throat, so those fish can swim into that net, but not be able to swim out. Now, what do y'all think we use for bait for these lines and nets?
Live bait.
Live bait. Yeah. So again, those perch, brim, crappie, sockeye, all types of fish. We'll keep them alive, use them as little minnows. Work really well, keep those catfish interested and attracted. We have crawfish, crickets, and worms all work really well. And we also use ivory soap. So the lie inside the soap emits a scent they're attracted to, they'll swim after it. Once they bite onto it, they're hooked, right? On that hook. Produces a very clean tasting catfish. For those hoop nets, we'll buy cheese from factories that's expired. We'll put it in a big tub, get it nice and hot and stinky. We call that stinky cheese. Put it in a mesh bag, stick it in those hoop nets. Again, works very well. So different times of the year using different bait can keep those catfish interested and attracted out here. Now we have a camp coming up here on our right-hand side. This does mark the end of the road. So no road access, no cars coming out to these camps from here on out. Everything in, everything around, everything to build them. Brought in by what?
Boats.
By boat, absolutely, yeah. So true labor of love to have a camp out here. Now what about that big white freezer on the dock there? Put it on the boat, lugged it onto the dock there. Any ideas how we're powering it?
Solar.
Look around.
Hydroelectric.
Lots of trees, lots of limbs, lots of shade.
Oh.
What else do we have out here?
Hydroelectric.
Hydroelectricity, yeah. Not enough redneck ingenuity, unfortunately. So the river doesn't look like it's flowing much. We're at about 8 to 12,000 cubic feet per second, which is about 2 to 3 knots. Of course, when that water jumps up to 16 foot in the wintertime, it's about 30,000 cubic feet per second, which is closer to about 10 to 12 knots. So hydroelectricity, especially with logs floating down the river here, not a great option, right? What else do we have? What do we have at home?
Power company?
Power lines, right? Yeah, absolutely. Just trying to make y'all think. Absolutely, all these have power lines running out to them. So oldest camp's about 65 years old. They ran power lines out here about 50 years ago. Now these are not primary residences. These are weekenders. They're camps. They're getaways. They are, again, not primary residences. First to lose electricity, last ones to get that electricity put back on after a storm. A couple turtles over there on the log on the right-hand side hanging out as well.
Yeah. Can I ask you a unrelated question? What was our speed, the maximum speed that the boat?
The maximum speed we could go?
Yeah, that we went. Okay.
What we were going about 25.
25 what?
25 to 27 miles per hour.
Miles per hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in 2005, 17 years ago, we had Hurricane Katrina. When Hurricane Katrina came through, it pushed about a 10 to 15 foot wall of water up the river here. So all of these camps were absolutely flooded, inundated with water for about a week before that water backflowed back into Lake Bourne out into the Gulf of Mexico. So they owned the land. What they choose to do with it, completely up to them. These first two, they were derelict, dilapidated, chose not to rebuild. Their neighbors went a little bit higher when they rebuilt, right? Hopefully don't flood quite as often. Big old dock, rope swing, big in-ground pool out here.
Waterfront.
Waterfront, yeah. Would anyone swim out here in the river?
No.
Why not?
Maybe.
We absolutely do, yeah. So summer months, about 6 to 8 feet deep. Again, we're at about 7 foot today. We'll have plenty of exposed sandbars. It's a nice place to come hang out. I have a 2-year-old daughter, absolutely loves it out here in the river. Again, y'all probably think I'm nuts. Alligators, alligator snapping turtles, cottonmouths, water moccasins. We also have bull sharks that swim up from the Gulf of Mexico. They lay their offspring out here in the fresh water. Plenty of things that could get us. Very, very rarely does that happen. Got to remember we're in their habitat, their ecosystem. Got to be aware of them, but there's no reason to live life in fear.
I thought bull sharks were aggressive though.
They are aggressive, absolutely. Yeah. Again though, you're probably more likely to get into a car accident than to get bit by something out here. Our river out here to the left-hand side, we call this Friday's Ditch. This was dug out by a freed slave back in the day named Friday. It was just a ditch, a small narrow waterway. Hurricane Katrina widened it out significantly. So lots of water flowing that way. It connects the West Pearl River here to the Middle Pearl River. Otherwise we have to go down 7 miles to Lake Bourne, make a U-turn, come back up 7 miles. So extremely treacherous, twists and turns very suddenly. About the only place to hop across to the Middle Pearl though. So the Middle Pearl is actually at a lower elevation. That's why that water is flowing that direction. Water is always going to take the path of least resistance there.
They decided not to rebuild.
They decided not to rebuild, yeah.
Is there any ordinance out here against not rebuilding?
There is not. No, sir.
So you can just
Leave your land like that. So as long as they're continue to pay taxes on that land, they still own it. If they stop paying taxes on it, the state's going to take it from them, at which point they can resell it. But yeah, I assume taxes are extremely cheap out this way, so why would you not want to continue to pay taxes? How old? Oh, that's incredibly difficult to tell. They'll start out very, very small. They get up to be about the size of basketballs, those red ear and yellow belly sliders. So I have no idea how to age a turtle besides looking at the scutes up close and personal. Anyone think they could make a lifestyle change, come live out here?
Yes. Oh yeah. They're doing it.
So all these camps on the left have about 1/4 of an acre. Again, behind them there, 35,000 acres owned by the state. So really big backyard, big playground out there. Unfortunately, they don't go for sale. Usually passed down from family to family, generation to generation. The last one that I saw go for sale was about $225,000. So you're not really buying the camp, you're buying the land. Not designating any new land for camps, so just what's here is here. Extremely valuable in that aspect. Nothing substantial in the camps. You can tell they're quite close to the water. Gonna flood every couple of years, so not gonna have sheetrock, not gonna have insulation in them. Costly to replace. It's also a chore again to bring in and out of here, out of the swamp. So we do have electricity from those power lines. We'll dig wells about 60 to 80 feet deep, hit an aquifer, have fresh water and hot water, satellite TV, internet, again, just about everything we need to live. Again, the only way in and out is by boat, so be a little bit of a chore to get to your job. Of course, we got to pay for this stuff somehow. Now we have a boat coming up here on our left-hand side named Cotton Picking Crabs. Any ideas what they do for a living? Crabbers, right? Commercial fishermen. So the red, yellow, and green traps on the dock for blue crabs. Do we have blue crabs here in our river? We do not. Again, we're in fresh water, right? Those blue crabs hang out in brackish water or salt water. So all of our lakes, Lake Bourne, Lake Pontchartrain, Lake Catherine, Chandelier Sound, all brackish water. Salt water from the Gulf of Mexico, fresh water from our rivers makes it brackish. So out in our lakes, we have those blue crabs, brown and white shrimp, oysters, redfish, red drum, black drum, sheep's head, speckled trout, white trout, and flounder. So a neat, diverse ecosystem we have right here. Have every protein you could possibly want. You just got to go catch it, right?
Sure.
So a lot of y'all said no to swimming out here. Is it the wildlife or is it the watercolor, the clarity?
The wildlife.
The wildlife, yeah. People ride jet skis out here all the time. So the sediment in the river here is a fine, sandy, silty mud. The flow of the river is just churning it up, giving it that color. Again, it's very, very clean water, fresh water. Now what about these big traps on the dock on the right over here? What do you think we catch in those guys?
Alligators.
Alligators? Look a little closer, not too many openings, right? So it's kind of our timeout corner. We'll put kids in them, dunk them in the river here, straighten out really quickly.
We got two right here.
No, stop that. I'm just playing with you. Those are essentially live wells. A live box or live traps is what we call them. So we'll put crawfish, put catfish in them, keep them alive. Most of the people that run our catfish lines out here, commercial fishermen, they don't have enough to settle the market. They'll put them in those traps, keep them alive overnight. Not too terribly cruel. Any questions yet? We got service out here, perfect. All right, we're gonna keep moving along. Got just a little bit further to go. We're gonna tuck back into the swamp right there. Turtles are out in full force today. So historically speaking, off the front of the boat up there, all that was land. So the water always, again, takes the path of least resistance, eroded away that land, pulled those trees in, continues to flow straight. So it used to wrap around here to the right. It made a horseshoe or an oxbow. So we call this Upper Dead Bayou now that we're coming into. Any ideas why we call it Upper Dead Bayou? Good place to stash bodies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Water does not move, absolutely. Yeah, so a dead flow, if you will. So our big green heart-shaped leaves on either side of the boat here, anyone know what plant that is? Elephant ears, absolutely. Being so abundant, are they native? Do they belong out here? Absolutely not. Yeah, people plant them in their yards when we have big storms, washed out of their yards down here into our swamps. Absolutely thriving, right? We lose about a football field of land every 30 minutes due to erosion here in Louisiana. So the state's keeping those elephant ears here, help keep our soil intact. More land we have, less intense those storms are once they make it to land. Has anyone eaten elephant ear?
No.
Great, I really don't suggest it. It is poisonous, especially to children and small pets. I had a family from Hawaii said that they eat every part of that plant. So the root system is a tuber, a lot like a potato. They'll cook it up like a potato, wrap fish in those leaves, steam them up. Supposedly it's really, really good. I have not been hungry enough to try and eat them out here, fortunately. Now on that talk of poison, any poisonous snakes out here? Absolutely not, right? So poison, something eaten, something ingested, we have what? Venomous snakes, right? So venom injected into you via those fangs there. Cottonmouths, water moccasins, copperheads, coral snakes, rattlesnakes, pygmy rattlesnakes, and hognose, all venomous snakes. Very, very plentiful out here. We do have diamondback water snakes, green water snakes, brown water snakes, chicken snakes, corn snakes, rat snakes, king snakes. Again, all plentiful out here. Those are all non-venomous. Anyone deathly afraid of snakes?
Sorry.
Perfect. I am. So if we drop one in the boat, I'll have y'all grab them for me. Now, whether you like snakes or not, we do have a huge issue with rodents out here. Our big rodent, the nutria or nutrirat. Has everyone heard of a nutria or nutrirat? Okay. So we brought those nutria in from South America back in the day for their pelts. So they're about the size of a beaver, big orange teeth like a beaver, long slender tail just like a snake. Really beautiful pelts on them, fur coats made out of them. Taste pretty good as well. So unfortunately released from their pens during a storm, pushed out here into our marshes. They're herbivores, eat plants, cause erosion. They are thriving out here. So the state actually has a bounty on them at $6 per tail. I don't care how you catch them, how you kill them, cut the tail off, bring it to Wildlife and Fisheries. $6 a tail. Yes, ma'am.
Do they use the fur at all?
These days, no ma'am.
Nothing like that.
No, not anymore, unfortunately. Any guesses what kind of trees we have out here? Big ones? Good start. Let's start with that. So these trees that are coming over the front of the boat up here, those long limbs on them, those are all black willows. If you remember from Pocahontas, Mother Willow has those long limbs that blow in the wind. We have tupelo and sweet gum trees out here, bald cypress, red maple, river birch, all out here. The swamps are flooded forest, right? Up there on the ridges, higher elevation, oaks, pines, and magnolias. Magnolia tree produces a white flower. That is our state flower here in Louisiana. We also have a purple flower that blooms out here in the springtime, wild purple iris. It's our state wildflower. Any ideas on our state reptile? Haven't seen one yet. The alligator, right? What about the state bird?
Pelican.
Pelican, brown pelican. So brown and white pelicans hang out in our lakes, prefer that brackish water over the fresh water here. What about our easy one, our state dog? No one at all? Catahoula. So Catahoulas we'll use as hunting dogs. We have a huge issue with feral hogs out here. About 4.6 million feral hogs across the U.S. Very healthy population out here. So those feral hogs we brought in from Russia back in the day as another food source. Unfortunately, they have little piglets every 6 months, 3 to 6 piglets each time. So population's out of control out here.
Are they eating them at all?
Are we eating them?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, they taste very good.
But no bounty on them either.
They're going to have a lot gamier of a taste than domesticated pigs, but that's something you kind of grow up with. So those Catahoulas will send out in packs, go find those feral hogs. We'll send a bay dog out, typically a pit bull, to keep that pig in place until we're able to get to it. What's the problem with those piglets besides them reproducing often? They destroy our lands, absolutely, yeah. Rooting up all of our grounds, looking for grubs, looking for worms in the ground. Very, very opportunistic animals. So we have a little patch over here on the left-hand side where those feral hogs had torn up a few nights ago. There's another bigger patch coming up here on the right, which I'm going to stop at. Now on state-owned land out here, we can only hunt those feral hogs when it coincides with another season, and we're shooting them with that caliber of weapon in season. On private land, you can hunt them day or night, year-round. Again, to protect our farmers, they'll mow through crops overnight, absolutely destroy them.
What are those things?
I haven't seen any lizards swimming in the water
Yes,
yet.
my son asked what those are.
The bugs on top of the water?
Make it.
There it is. It's cute.
The bugs on top of the water there, those are whirligig beetles. So those whirligig beetles emit a bubble under their abdomen, the bottom side of their shell there, so they have a surface retention. There's also a yellow belly slider swimming there.
No, they're like friends.
They are friends right now. Yeah, that turtle's probably a little bit too big to get in that alligator's mouth for now.
Oh, he's coming over here. Don't you get near the edge. There's one over there. Look at, oh, there's another one over there.
So these baby alligators, about 2-3 feet long, going to be about 2-3 years old. They grow at about a foot per year for the first 6 to 7 years of their life.
Why are you fighting?
ate it.
What am I feeding them? Little kids' fingers.
Watch out.
No, they're little
Snoozing.
marshmallows. Yeah, you enjoy them, right? So do our alligators.
I like them.
So again, grow at a foot per year for the first 6 to 7 years of their life. After that, gonna slow down to just a few inches. So mama's gonna hang around with them for up to 3 years. No, sir, I'm gonna keep the marshmallows back here. That way I don't have you putting your hands over the rail there.
Exactly.
So mama hangs around with them for 3 years, gonna bring them food. 80 teeth in their mouth, 40 on the top, 40 on the bottom. When they're young, their teeth are extremely sharp. So no molars. What they're eating absolutely whole. So if mama brings them something too big, they'll thrash at that meat, pull it off, a little bit more manageable for them to consume. Now when they're young like that, these juveniles, they're black and tan bands on them, gonna help them camouflage. As they get older, those colors typically dull out. They're more blacks and browns than those tan colors. They're cute though, huh?
How big's the one you guys have in the office?
The one in the tank?
Yeah.
So Sid in the tank is actually a dwarf caiman crocodile. She's not an alligator. And she's going on 11 years old now.
Definitely dwarf.
Definitely dwarf. Yeah, gonna kind of adapt to their environment as well. So she's not quite as big. So again, all this land that these alligators hanging out on, all torn up by those feral hogs a few weeks ago. Now there's a plant that's popping up now. All this was elephant ear before. That other plant that is over there that has that arrowhead to it, that's arrowroot. So arrowroot was one of our first domesticated plants out here by the Acolapisa Indians. Anyone know what we use arrowroot for? Arrows. For cooking, right? Kind of like cornstarch. It's a thickening agent whenever we cook.
Are those tadpoles? The little.
Those are not. Those are whirligig beetles.
Oh, okay.
He's just swimming, man.
They are not mosquitoes. They're not going to bite. They eat algae, microplankton, stuff like that inside the water here.
They suck blood.
Do they suck blood? Who's that? The vampires?
No, they don't suck blood.
Alright, we're going to go look for Mama up here.
I was gonna say, where's Mama? Because you know they're pretty young.
They're like,
How many eggs do they lay usually? How many eggs?
How many eggs?
Yeah.
Between 45 and 60.
And then how many survive?
So typically about 50% of that. So maximum about 30 or so.
So what's the predator?
Everything.
Oh really? Like,
Between fire ants, snakes, raccoons, birds, feral hogs, all destroy nests. And again, lose about 50% of them. It takes 63 to 68 days for those eggs to hatch out. So mom's not going to hang on that nest all the time. She has to leave and go get food, replenish herself. So April and May is actually our breeding season. June or July is whenever she builds her nests.
oh, so just once a year?
Once per year. Yes, ma'am. And we have typically one male alligator has 2.5 square miles of territory, and then he's going to have about 15 to 30 sexually active females. And he's not mating with all 15 to 30, he's mating with about 3 to 4 per year. So again, those females tending to their offspring for 3 years or so, they're not interested in another clutch of eggs there. And daddy plays absolutely no role in those alligators' lives. He does actually eat them every now and again.
Wow.
The big male in the area here, we called him Big Al. We had been seeing him for about 10 years. Unfortunately, he was harvested about 4 weeks ago, which is, again, whenever we first happened to realize that he was gone, it was really sad. Been seeing him for 10 years. It's a good thing though, right? It's going to spread out genetics. Another male's going to come into the area, have new genes to spread out among those females. Now, probably not going to be a 12-foot alligator. It's probably going to be 8-10 foot long. And they're always competing for that space, for that territory.
It's not a big one, but it's getting bigger.
whoa.
Whoa.
I like this.
That's the size of the one I know.
Oh, whoa.
So tip of the snout to the eyes in inches, about equivalent in feet. About 5-6 inches on the snout, 5-6 feet long.
Don't you put your arms over.
Okay.
The marshmallows.
I'm hungry.
You can't have food yet.
Might be able to feed you. So again, a foot per year for the first 6 to 7 years, so about 5-6 years old. Now they don't reach sexual maturity until about 6 to 7 years old, 6 to 7 feet long, so still immature there.
Is that male and female?
Yes. And it's extremely difficult to tell the difference between a male and female. They have a cloaca just like a snake. We're only sexing them whenever they're dead or they're heavily restrained. And inside that cloaca, you're either going to feel something or you do not. This is the best way to put it there. So, who's going swimming?
Me.
Anyone think they can outswim an alligator?
No.
Outrun an alligator?
No.
Outjump an alligator?
No, they climb.
So swim through the water at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Run on land in short bursts, have to emphasize short bursts, up to 25 miles per hour. And they'll jump up out of the water about 5 feet or so.
Oh.
Why is it moving? There's a little bit of a flow as well as the wind that we have blowing right now, keeping us nice and cold today.
And it gets me really cold.
Any ideas why we're seeing more alligators back here than we did on the river?
Less movement?
A lot less movement, right? Yeah, so actually they're pretty lazy animals, not going to want to exert more energy than they really need to. They're only eating every couple of weeks to every month or so. So again, if they're using a lot of energy, they have to replenish a lot more energy.
Could go for that marshmallow.
Are they pretty solitary then? Or, I mean, when they're that young, they were all together, but this one's all by itself. I mean, do they at an age decide to be?
No, they're not solitary creatures. The females will tolerate themselves, is the best way to put it. That sole male in the area. Whenever they're sexually mature. As they're immature, going to have males and females congregating. But as those males get larger, reach sexual maturity, they'll leave the area. Whether they go hang out in the river away from dad, or they actually go out and find their own territory, kind of still unknown. But Big Al actually had a 6-foot alligator in his mouth about 4 months ago. So good presumption that was a male alligator that he was eradicating competition, not to have to compete with them. I think yesterday I had about 9 alligators right here. And I think it's just with the cooler weather last night that they kind of a little bit more docile. There's another one coming right there. So ideal temperature range about 82 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. There's a great blue heron that's just flying over right there. Big beautiful birds there. So ideal temperature range about 82 to 92 degrees Fahrenheit. Once it drops below 55 degrees Fahrenheit, our alligators go dormant. They go through a hibernative state called brumation. So they'll slow their heartbeat down to about 3 beats per minute. They'll go down in the mud, bury themselves in the mud, insulate their bodies, and stay under for about 2 to 3 hours. Come up, get a breath of fresh air, and go right back down. So we have not had any 55-degree weather yet, but all of this kind of affects them a little bit. Getting close to being surrounded.
Why marshmallows? I'm just curious.
So Dr. Wagner started the company in 1982. Well, let's start off. He was a wetland ecologist, had a PhD in wetland ecology, taught at Tulane for the longest time. This was his retirement plan. Found that marshmallows mimicked birds' eggs. Used to see them fall out of nests, same color, same size, so that's where that comes from. They do have tongues, they have taste buds. I'm sure that they have an affection for sweets now. Not gonna feed them anything protein rich. Do not want them solely relying on us, right? So if we left here tomorrow, they still need to be wild animals, still need to forage on their own. Just like in their stomachs, those marshmallows dissolve very, very quickly, so they still need to be able to hunt on their own.
Yum.
They're not. They're sugar-free, fat-free marshmallows. It's good for them. Yeah. I like to pull them off into little chunks. I don't throw whole ones out.
Yeah.
Now, we have 3 major types of waterways here in Louisiana. We have rivers, which is what we were first on, going fast. bayous, which is what we pulled off the river into. Going to be slower water movement as well as narrower. This is what we consider a slough. So a slough is going to be much narrower, much slower moving than a bayou. You're pointing at the bubble gum on all the plants?
What that is? What is it?
It's not bubble gum. Let's see. So over here on the right-hand side on that sawgrass is what I'm talking about. About the size of an index finger or a thumb. Looks like Dippin' Dots ice cream or double bubble gum. Those are cases of apple snails. So there's about 400 to 600 eggs in each one of those cases. They lay them every month during the summer months. Get to be about the size of an apple or a baseball. Not native here. People have them in aquariums. We started seeing a huge influx of them in 2006, coincidentally after Hurricane Katrina. Those homes flooded, pushed out here into the ecosystem. So again, they're herbivores, eat plants. We don't want them. Unfortunately, everything that's a bright, vibrant color, good forewarning not to eat it. So when that apple snail lays those eggs, it produces a toxicity that does paralyze or kill animals that eat them. So short of us mechanically removing each one from every plant, bringing it on land, crushing it up, burning it, not too much we can do. Unfortunately, not too many tax dollars that are going to pay for that either. Now we're able to eat those apple snails. They do carry a parasite called the rat lungworm. I think it's enough for most people not to eat them. Alligators will eat them. They have a very strong stomach acid, dissolve those shells. We have a species of bird that flew in from Florida last February called a limpkin. It's a dark brown, black with white spots on it. Very long, slender beak, pull those apple snails out of their shells. And then we also have raccoons and river otters out here that will crack those shells open on stumps to be able to eat them up that way. So we call this waterway Maple Slough. Maple Slough was dredged out back in the day. They harvested the majority of our cypress trees out here. So cypress carries an oil in it called cypressine. That cypressine makes the tree rot resistant and pest resistant. So a really good building material. Cut our trees down, floated them out of Maple Slough down into the river, across to New Orleans there, helped build up New Orleans. So most of our cypress trees out here, recent within the past 200 years. I know y'all are looking at me like, which one's a cypress tree? These trees on our right-hand side right here, this clump, the little island right there, those are all bald cypresses. So bald cypress, they're conifers. They lose their needles during the winter time, gives them a bald appearance, hence the name there. So again, most of the cypress trees about 200 years old out here. They're very, very slow growing trees. Now I'll point it out to y'all on the right when we're coming out of here, but those on the left, if you look right here on the left-hand side, there's a big old stump that's going to be on the side of the boat. That stump, that tree was cut down in the 1800s. That stump has still not completely rotted away, right? So that's a bald cypress, true testament to how rot resistant and pest resistant they truly are. Now what about all of our gray beards hanging from the trees? Anyone know what that is?
Spanish moss.
Spanish moss, right? Not Spanish and not a moss at all. It's a bromeliad, an air plant, does not have a root structure to it. Anyone know what an epiphyte is? So an epiphyte is a plant that does nothing to hurt or help the host plant there. So Spanish moss is an epiphyte. We do have a parasitic bromeliad out here. It's going to be our mistletoe. So mistletoe will have a taproot drill into the tree, get nutrients from the tree. So our Spanish moss getting nutrients from our rains and humidity out here. Now they used Spanish moss in World War II. They put it in mattresses and pillows. Everyone heard the saying, "Good night, don't let the bed bugs bite"? That's where that comes from. So Spanish moss harbors mites, lice, chiggers, and red bugs. Everything that's going to make your skin crawl. Also used in the first Model T Ford seat cushion. Not a great viable option. It is edible. It splits off into 3 segments. You can pull that middle segment out. It tastes a lot like a sprout. Not a whole lot of nutritional value in it though. Has anyone Princess and the Frog? Right. So some producers from Disney came out with us to get inspiration for that movie. They used Maple Slough as the bayou that they traveled down in that movie. Another juvenile alligator on the left-hand side right there in that weed. They also used this big cypress tree with all those knots in it on the left-hand side in that movie as the giving tree. So that's where Mama Odie and Juju lived. Of course, they had a big boat up at the top there. That boat's not there. Got to use a little imagination. So this tree estimated to be 800 years old. Not harvested because it was stunted with growth from the towering canopies all around it. Also has all those knots and burls in it. So it was not a good harvest for it. Our oldest living cypress tree here in Louisiana is estimated to be 2,000 years old. It's in West Feliciana Parish, St. Francisville. It's about 43 feet around. It's a big old girl. Anyone have any ideas on the difference between a swamp and a marsh?
Fresh water, marsh is mixed.
Not necessarily.
Swamp is deeper.
Not necessarily. What do we see plenty of out here on the left?
Monkey grass.
Trees, right? Lots and lots of trees. A swamp, a flooded forest. Out here on the right past that tree line, gonna be a marsh, a flooded grassland. Simply put there. So that marsh was a lake back in the day. With the Pearl River opening up out there, less water flow back here, silted and closed off. Generated a marsh now. Those are apple snail eggs, yeah.
Marshmallow Man's here.
It's like a floating ice cream truck out here.
Yeah.
Here, marshmallow ice cream.
Has everyone started noticing the little protrusions, finger-like things coming up out of the water? Anyone know what that is?
Like these little stump things?
Yeah.
Tree roots?
Cypress knees. Have y'all heard of cypress knees? So the cypress knee is a part of the cypress tree's root structure. Expand out up to 20 feet from the main tree. Going to provide stability for the tree, right? So tap root's only about 4.5 to 5 feet deep into this fine sandy silty mud, so dispersing that weight out. They do grow above the mean high water mark, so it also is going to help with photosynthesis, taking and release CO2 and oxygen. Is this anyone's first time out into a swamp? Pretty out here, right? This is kind of what you imagined.
If only the days were always this cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're not.
No.
Yeah, down there. Dude, get away from the edge. You can see it all. Lose your face.
Mapaches.
Are they waiting for us to throw marshmallows also?
They're waiting for a picture.
Good side. What's their good side?
So we're Bayou Bandits, right? Not trash pandas out here. What do our trash pandas eat?
Trash.
Trash. What do our raccoons eat out here?
Everything?
Everything. Yeah, again, opportunistic. They'll eat apple snails, they'll eat alligator eggs. Coming to say hi. Come here, girl.
Les van a visitarnos. No, get over here. No, you're not.
So they'll eat crawfish, they'll eat fish, they'll eat just about anything they can find out here.
See how close we can get here.
I'm gonna make you work for it.
I actually like the jumping.
You like them jumping? I don't know if this one will jump. But...
How high can you go? All right.
So our raccoons, they're arboreal, gonna live up in the trees. They're coming down here. They know the sounds of the boats, just like those alligators.
You've
Need
trained
a
them.
quick snack.
Sound of the ice cream truck.
So our raccoons, they make really good pets if you get them young enough before they open their eyes. You can train them to be a house cat. They'll go in a litter box, essentially be your BFF forever until they rip your face off. No, you don't want. Unfortunately, not too many vets gonna give rabies shots to these guys, so kind of on your own on that one. Now, on the other side of that, we do come out here, we hunt these raccoons. When we sell that meat, we leave 1 foot on it. It's the only way you can tell you're buying a raccoon and not a cat. So they have a very similar skeletal structure to a cat. Just in case you're in the market for raccoon meat, you know what you're buying.
Oh, we got another buddy over here.
Yay.
I'm gonna try and separate these two. Do not want to play with alligators and raccoons in the same spot, right?
I'm looking out the...
Alligator disagrees.
Roasted marshmallows.
How would it probably go down if that happened?
We'll find out.
I don't know.
So the raccoons, they're extremely smart. They're lurking, they sense something. They're gonna go up into those trees, get out of harm's way. Unfortunately, that alligator's just a little bit too small. Most likely, probably not gonna try and get a bite out of these raccoons.
I think you're bringing them really close together now.
Trying to get them up on a log. That's really what I'm doing. I'm not trying to put the raccoons in harm's way there. Come on, get up here and go away. Go, 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 go. So for most people, regularly do not see alligators out of the water. I'm not trying to entice those raccoons to get eaten. What I'm trying to do is get this alligator up out of the water, just so you can kind of see the structure of that alligator. So all along the back there, those ridges, those are called scutes or osteoderms. Those scutes provide 3 major functions for that alligator. We're gonna try and get them up on the log again here. Oh, we're playing with fire there, guys. These alligators, we're shooting with a .22 caliber bullet. That's gonna keep from ruining the rest of the hide. If we shoot it with a larger caliber, not gonna have as pricey of a hide. So impenetrable by bullets. It's gonna help with heat transfer. So our alligators, they're ectothermic, cold-blooded animals. They need the heat, need the sunshine to get energy. Transfers heat very, very well. Third, when alligators go underwater, they hold their breath for 2 to 3 hours. What gases are they accumulating?
CO2.
Carbon dioxide, right? So those scutes will release calcium ions into the bloodstream, help combat acidosis or poisoning itself with carbon dioxide. Go back over there.
No, it's just staring. Imagine the alligators keep the raccoon population down a bit, or is that?
Do the alligators help the raccoon population? They do. But again, those raccoons eat alligator eggs. It's a true circle of life out here. Those alligators gonna eat those raccoons as well. Dog eat dog world out here, unfortunately. Any questions on our swamps, flora, fauna, anything so far? Anyone looking to go for a walk?
Yeah.
I never offered. Unfortunately, off the front of the boat, all that is marsh. Again, it's a muddy, fine, sandy, silty mud. when you're walking through there, you're sinking down to your ankles, down to your knees, up to your hips in some spots.
So different wildlife?
In the marsh,
Yeah, more
you're gonna have a little bit more birds. Yes, ma'am.
But the same, I mean,
There's alligators. They'll actually make their home out in the marsh, build their nests. Raccoons gonna live out in the marsh. You're gonna have white-tailed deer, feral hogs, and all of them need a water source, right? So they're coming to the swamps, but mostly gonna live in the marsh.
¿Quieres decir hola? Hey.
I held a gator like that at the gator fest.
With the tape.
No, that was a tame one. No, I was
such
like,
thing as a
yeah, I
tamed
was like,
alligator.
it was chill though.
Yeah, that's interesting.
See? Okay, that's it.
Go stand up there. Oops. Somebody else see. Get your hand away from the rail. It's right there. Come on. Yeah, stay away from the rail. Nope. You don't want that thing to bite you.
Here we go.
Whoa.
So again, all those bumps and ridges along their back there, those are all scutes. Only kill shot on that alligator's right behind the skull plate right there. It's the size of a quarter. It's very, very small. It's a good, precise shot. You hit that alligator anywhere else, it's gonna upset it. You really do not want an upset alligator attached to you.
Is that spot because the brain size, or is it the skin's thin there?
No.
So there's no bone right there. The brain's located right there, and it's the skin's going to be tough throughout the whole animal. But but you're going to want to kill that primary brain. They have a secondary brain at their back feet, at their back legs. That primary or the secondary brain at their back legs controls motor function. So even after you kill them, it's still going to wiggle around, move. So we'll tape their mouths shut. They don't have a lot of force to open their mouths. They have about 2,000 pounds per square inch of closing force. So if they can't open their mouths, can't really bite you. But getting whipped with that tail doesn't feel great.
Way over. Sorry.
I
know. I
Sorry?
I think the brain.
Sorry. I almost, when I sat down, I was almost
It's not much.
on her lap.
But that being said, extremely smart animals for what it is. A lot of instinct in them.
Is this a dead end area, I presume?
Not too much water past here, yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna circle back around here.
Bye bye, buddies.
Oh, yeah.
They do look precious.
They do look precious. Unfortunately, and I haven't had them this close to the boat in a while. But I was feeding mom for the longest time. Those raccoons and the little babies jump around a little bit more. I got bit by a baby a few weeks ago. So I do not hand feed those anymore.
How small do you see them actually come out, like to visit?
So those are only about 3 months old now.
Those?
Yep, those babies, yeah. As far as how small it's going to change from year to year, but I've seen them just as little fluff balls. They're always a little bit skittish when they first come out, but they kind of get used to mom coming out and they see, oh, well, they're not going to hurt us. So again, April and May for breeding season for those alligators. June or July, mom goes out into the marsh, builds a nest out of mud and vegetation. That vegetation decomposes, heats up those eggs, incubates them, keeps them alive. So what's neat about alligators, there's no predetermined genes for their gender when they're first born. It's the first 7 to 21 days the temperature regulates their sex. Below 86 degrees Fahrenheit produces a female. Above 92 degrees Fahrenheit will produce a male alligator. And between that range, going to produce a mixed bag of males and females. Usually produce about 5 females to 1 male alligator, which is great because that male is extremely territorial, so do not want quite as many of them. Now again, 63 to 68 days for them to hatch out. Between those fire ants, raccoons, snakes, birds, all destroying nests, lose about 50% of them. Before they hatch out, they develop a tooth on the top of their snout that's called the egg tooth. They use that egg tooth to split the egg open, free themselves from the egg. About 6 to 9 inches long when they're first born. Still prone to predation. Great blue herons, egrets, daddy alligator, largemouth bass will all eat up those juvenile alligators.
Want me to move? Okay, bye.
So when those alligators first born, start out eating little bugs, dragonflies, mosquitoes, crawfish, little fish, whatever they can find, whatever mama brings them. As they get larger, start eating larger and larger fish and animals. At about 6 to 7 feet long, they are sexually mature. Also going to be apex predators at that time. Not many things that eat those alligators except for other larger alligators and us humans. Has everyone had alligator before?
Yes.
If you have not, tastes a lot like spotted owl or bald eagle. It's very, very good. All went over everyone's head, right? And not eat that stuff whatsoever. Half the body length of that alligator is tail meat. That's a white meat. We'll cut it up in little chunks, fry it up. Tastes a lot like chicken. They do have meat on their legs, their ribs, around their jowls. It's a darker meat. We'll grind it up, mix it with pork, give it fat, give it flavor, make sausage or jerky with that meat. So try and use every part of that alligator. Nothing is going to go to waste.
Look at
So in the 1900s, our alligator population was decimated. Price per hide was about $35 to $75 per foot of that hide. So a lot of incentive for poachers to go out and make a quick buck overnight. Not a whole lot of regulations on them. So biologists went out, collected eggs from the wild, brought them into captivity, able to select how many males, how many females they want to hatch out with that temperature range, raised them up, released so many of them to repopulate, slaughtered so many of them to flood the market with that meat and hide. The price per hide's down to about $5 to $12 per foot these days, depending on the grade. Also extremely heavily regulated. So here in Louisiana, you have to own about 500 acres of land to be able to hunt on your private land or leased land. Biologists go out, survey the area, see how many alligators you have, and issue a percentage of them. Yeah, again, that big stump on the right-hand side for those that did not see it when we were coming through. Hey, those are our limpkins. So those birds that are waddling away right now, those are those limpkins that I was talking about before. That migrated here from Florida. They eat those apple snails. Of course, they all disappeared now.
So it just came this year, you said?
Last February. Yes, sir. And they emit this really, really, really loud screech that kind of sounds like a little girl screaming. So when we first started hearing those, we had absolutely no idea what it was. Really, really eerie out here at night. So on hunting those alligators, if you don't own that kind of land, you're putting in for a lottery. 27,000 people signed up this past year. About 7,000 to 8,000 people got tags. So a very small percentage. You get 3 tags per person. You're able to set 2 lines out per tag, so up to 6 lines. You're going to be on a designated area. And the way that we hunt them, we're going to hang rotted meat on a line. The higher you hang it up, the larger the alligator that's able to jump up to it. That's the only way that you can kind of tell or choose how big of an alligator you're going to get. Whatever you have on your line there, you're supposed to harvest. That way you don't have a bunch of alligators swimming around with ropes and hooks in their stomach there. Has everyone seen Swamp People before?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry if you love that show. They add a little bit of drama to it. So as that alligator eats that meat, that hook goes into their stomach. Whenever they're retrieving that alligator, they're going to give it a little yank. That's going to pull at that alligator's stomach, cause it to thrash against the boat, which is the drama that everyone wants to see. Again, you really do not want to upset an alligator. That's right up close to your boat there.
have?
A limit that they can have. On public land, you're getting 3 tags per person.
So they'll 3.
So it's kind of hard to tell between private land and public land, but if 5,000 people on public land all get 3 tags, you're harvesting 15,000 alligators. Now on those public land, you're usually getting, or excuse me, on private land, you're getting between 100 and 200 tags. So a significant amount more. People expected mosquitoes. Kind of a misconception there. So the water always flowing, again, as I mentioned, just no breeding habitat for them right here. Come out at nighttime, they're gonna fly out of their puddles from the swamps. You get taken away by those pterodactyls out here, unfortunately. All the flat plants in the water over here on the left-hand side, all those are lily pads, have those yellow flowers on them there. And if you look along those tupelo gums on the left-hand side, all those apple snail eggs that are hanging out right there. 2 gators.
Huh?
No, why not? I want a horsey.
So my favorite alligator out here, we call her 3-wheeler, and she's actually missing her front right leg. That front right leg was bit off by another alligator when she was much younger. Completely healed over, completely fleshed over, absolutely nothing wrong with her. There's something in alligator's blood that they're able to combat 23 different strains of bacteria. They've also been doing studies at LSU, found that the alligator blood is able to combat and eradicate the HIV virus as well. Again, a lot of adaptations for them to survive through just about anything. We had another alligator out here a few years ago. Bottom side of that alligator, its belly, a little bit softer, got hit by a prop, and it had intestines, organs hanging out. We thought surely it was going to die every day. It lived for another 2 years, and unfortunately something else got it after that point. Alligator hanging up on the bank on the right hand side over here. His head poking up on those cypress knees.
It's just the water on the boat.
So again, alligators cold-blooded, ectothermic, need heat, need sunshine to get their energy. There is a more impressive one over here on the left-hand side.
Yeah, see that one. There's someone.
There's another one on that driftwood over there on the right-hand side as well. So again, just with the colder nights that we're having, temperature changes, getting up in that sun, getting that energy there.
Oh wow.
really, really hard to appreciate their true size just seeing a head in the water there.
Oh, you got one coming up on the bow. Oh, yeah.
Alligator.
This?
Sick.
Any ideas why she has her mouth open like that?
Pull down.
Pull down. Yeah, so just like a dog that pants, open their mouth to exert heat that way. Good 7-foot alligator on that left-hand side. Pretty So again, all along the back there, all those scutes, hard bony plates, bottom side of that belly, a lot softer.
Not trying to exert much energy there.
Certainly not working too hard for her, right? Gotta move that tail. So majority of the locomotion from that alligator is going to come from its tail. Their back feet are webbed, going to help act as paddles, so they'll use them to tread water. Front feet going to have 5 toes on them. They're not webbed, and that's going to help them climb up on those logs.
No marshmallow for you.
No marshmallows, not having it right now.
Ya está lleno, no tiene hambre. Entendí que le daban los
Porque están muy similar que los huevos de
y el
ramos.
sabor también. Sí, como que y es de los labios. Ahí hay otro, mira.
We are almost surrounded. Are we actually surrounded?
You don't have to be the fastest, you just got to be faster than one other person, right?
Right.
I think I'm lost. Do you remember how to get home?
Follow that boat.
Follow that boat and go to the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Just come and look at this alligator on the log on the right.
To cool off.
Why is its mouth open? Because it's getting too hot. So again, kind of lazy animals, instead of having to get into the water to cool itself off, open that mouth up, exert heat that way.
Want to touch it? Want to go swimming? Let's go. Want to go swimming?
Would I come swimming back here? Absolutely not. In the rivers, I feel a little bit more
I
comfortable
wouldn't go swimming.
than back here, where I know we have a very healthy concentration of alligators.
The log doing there.
So those alligators, they do have noses as well as ears. Both of those are flaps, so they'll close those flaps before they go underwater. Going to help from introducing water into their body. They have a palatal valve at the back of their throat, so they'll swim through the water with their mouth open. That palatal valve closes, help from drowning that animal. With the mouth open, good opportunity to eat anything at any time there. I really hope we don't crash. I think we'll win though.
How many boats you guys got out at a time?
That's a different company out.
Yeah. Is that Cajun Encounters? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So what's our major differences between crocs and alligators?
Saltwater, freshwater.
Saltwater, freshwater, great. Yeah. What else?
Size.
Size,
Snout
teeth,
shape.
snouts, yeah. So crocodiles' long, slender snout, when they close their mouth, teeth fit on the outside of their mouth, looks like they're smiling. Alligators, more of a U-shaped snout, more broader. When they close their mouth, their bottom jaw fits in recessed grooves in their top jaw. Crocodiles get up to 26 feet. Alligators about 15 feet these days. Largest alligator ever harvested here in Louisiana was 19 feet 3 inches. That was back in 1890.
What's the difference in their snout again?
Snouts, so crocodiles more V-shaped, long and slender. When they close their mouth, teeth fit on the outside. Alligators more U-shaped, broader. When they close their mouth, bottom jaw fits in their top jaw. So crocodiles, saltwater, brackish water, alligators more fresh water. Alligators will traverse through, swim through brackish water, but not going to live out in it. Stay underwater for about 2 to 3 hours. 2 to 3 hours, yeah. Slow their heartbeat down. Again, just not exerting a lot of energy. Don't need to come back up to get another breath of air. So only place in the U.S. here that we have crocodiles is Florida Keys and Everglades. Yeah, that's the American crocodile. Only place again in the U.S. that we have a crocodile. What about the only other place in the world that we have an alligator? In China. Chinese alligator, yeah. Does not get quite as large as our American alligator though.
Okay, sit. Now. I don't want to lose you to an alligator. Shout out. Sit. Right there. Hi, hot. I'm mom.
I'm hot.
If you're hot, you should have came out yesterday. I was soaking wet in 5 minutes. It's absolutely beautiful out here today.
Yes, gorgeous.
I was expecting to sweat my ass off.
Yeah.
If we're going the very big one, then we can go fast.
So this plant right here, we call this salvinia. Salvinia is not native here. Unfortunately, people plant it in their ponds. Those ponds overflow, push out here into our ecosystem. Has its own little root structure, gets nutrients from the water. Unfortunately, it crowds out back here and it does cause fish kills, so it depletes the water of oxygen. Again, not native. There's another plant right here I'm gonna try and grab. Snail eggs on there. This plant is called hyacinth, water hyacinth. So water hyacinth introduced in 1884 here to Louisiana. They used it as a parting gift as well as decoration for the 1884 World's Trades Fair. Produces a beautiful purple flower. When they handed it out as a parting gift, people got home, didn't know what to do with it, dumped it out here into the wild. Again, with these long roots on it, crowds out our waterways. As they crowd out waterways, it's going to sediment, add sedimentation, so does not make those waterways as deep. Again, all those apple snails on there kind of look like little Dippin' Dots ice cream. Moral of the story: don't blind non-native plants, right? If you do, just have them out here.
So they just sort of conglomerate.
Yeah. And what's a good thing, back actually where we were with those raccoons, at the back of Maple Slough. So all that was crowded out with salvinia and duckweed. We had a good high water. We had a lot of rain a few weeks ago. So as we get high water, that salvinia gets pushed out, makes its way out to Lake Bourne, does not tolerate brackish water. So it will die off in that brackish water, but here in the fresh water, absolutely thrives.
Oye, nomás 1, 2, 3.
Sí. ¿Quieren saber dónde están los marshmallows? Okay.
Alrighty, any questions?
This feels like I'm like floating on alligators.
You're floating on alligators. I'm gonna make that happen.
That's a feeling.
We're gonna get back on the river there. Turn the AC on here for a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah, where do you have a chance? Those snails, where do they live? Underwater or on the land?
They're an aquatic snail, yes sir.
Aquatic, okay.
Yeah. And it's actually one of our largest freshwater aquatic snails here in the U.S. They're native to South America. Not sure exactly where in South America, but they do eat them down that way.
They're just following us. Yeah. Come back with the marshmallows.
Because it's called apples, yeah.
Yeah, deceiving though. It's just the size of them gets to be an apple.
Okay, I understand.
We can go faster here. We can go faster here.
What's that white bird up in the tree?
Yeah, the big white bird up there gonna be a great egret.
We can go faster in here.
So those great egrets, they'll stand about 3.5 feet tall. Unfortunately, stick out like sore thumbs with that bright white plumage, right? Not camouflaged very well. They are vicious, just like that great blue heron that we saw earlier. Very, very sharp beak. They are notorious for eating juvenile alligators. So they'll pierce that alligator, be able to swallow them whole.
How big do they get?
The egrets,
Yeah.
about 3.5 feet tall is what they stand.
What about the wingspan?
Wingspan, probably somewhere around 5 feet. Great blue herons get up to be about 4.5 feet tall, and they have a pretty good wingspan on them. Mostly wading birds though, they're walking along the banks, eating little fish, use that beak as a spear that fish, and then be able to swallow it that way.
Yeah, fast. You said fast.
That's right.
Like Ricky Bobby fast? Do they ever attack people?
No, very, very rarely, I believe. And of course, it'd probably be from us hitting it with a boat
Or messing with them?
that it would feel compelled to protect itself, right?
Oh yeah, that beak looks sharp.
Were you able to get a picture of them when we spin the boat around?
No, I'm really interested to see this turtle up here.
You're interested in seeing the turtle. All right.
More than the bird.
Hopefully he doesn't get scared and fall in the water. So our yellow belly sliders are gonna have a solid yellow belly, solid yellow plastron on them. The red ear sliders have a red tick on their ear. They're gonna have black circles on their plastron. Kind of hard to tell from here, but hopefully he doesn't fall in the water.
I don't even think I've noticed those yet. Oh, there's another one under it.
Yeah, there is. Right behind it. Got his back feet on him. You see a red mark on his ear? Right above the ears.
Look
at the tracks.
Black circle, red ear. Yeah, so you can see the black circles on the outer part of its plastron there, indicative of it being a red ear slider. So red ear sliders not native here. You can buy them in pet stores. People have them as pets. They get too big in their aquariums.
And they dump.
Here they are.
Oh, is it up?
It's just stunning. Like,
He's hanging out, yeah. Spreads out those back legs, getting every ounce of that sunshine. And what's neat, these turtles, that bone structure, we also call that scutes, the same things that those alligators have on their backs. Osteoderms.
Yes. Yeah, I see. I already got one. Check out 3.
Show that to the disposal. Some pictures. Yeah.
Nope, it's not every day.
houseboat up there. It's been there for about 10 years. This past year with Hurricane Ida is when it sunk down. Tied it too tight, ruptured that starboard pontoon, sunk down. Just like those camps that we saw that are derelict, dilapidated, they own that land, so it's now sitting on their private property. Real just light out.
Where's this access thing to?
That is Indian Village Road, off Highway 90. So our logs that are tied up on the right-hand side as well as on the left-hand side up here, all that is cypress wood. So again, we cannot cut down living cypress trees. They either fell from storms, people go out, drag them out from storms, or they're from the 1800s. When they cut them down, they floated them down the river. Some of that wood sunk down to the bottom. We call that sinker cypress. It's extremely valuable. It goes from anywhere from $20 to $80 per board foot for that sinker cypress. Again, pest resistant, rot resistant, great building material for outdoor furniture, pilings, pillars, countertops, tabletops, and we'll build boats with that cypress wood as well.
But it can't be harvested, so it's all salvaged.
Correct.
Yeah.
They do farm raise it, but you're not going to see your return on investment. So again, most of the trees that we saw back in our swamp, about 200 years old. So if that's as big as they are, 200 years.
Yeah. It would take so long to grow big enough.
You are not, yeah. There's actually a couple TV shows. I think Swamp Loggers is one of them. And it's really neat to see the process of how they're finding these logs and then how they're salvaging them.
Imagine having a deck that's crooked.
Do what?
Imagine having a deck that's crooked.
Yeah, well,
Sunk just a little bit.
it's always sinking. So there's nothing substantial under these camps. Most of the pilings put in by hand. So as they sag down, they'll jack them up, put another piling in, screw it all back together. Again, cannot emphasize enough how much of a labor of love it is to have a camp out here. Gator bait.
I have some gator bait at my dad's house.
littler white bird on our left-hand side over there. Going to be a snowy egret. And just like that great egret, wading bird, walking through the water there, looking for food. Yep.
Bye, turtle.
Anyone notice anything out of the ordinary with the camp on the left-hand side over there? A big old tree, huh? Going through the front porch. Also that great blue heron that's lurking in the water there as well.
Hey, stay away from the edge. Hey, two dogs.
Okay. I'm gonna go fast.
Oh yeah. They do.
So, Sheriff's Department, Slidell Police Department, as well as Slidell Fire, I think all has boats. Obviously not any place to land a helicopter, but even so, you really don't see those guys patrolling the river too often. So most of those boats used whenever we have big hurricanes and all the streets flood and everything. They're flat boats just like this one, so you can run them up on just about anything. Really shallow draft on them.
What about a medical emergency? Is there a way to respond to that?
I'm sorry?
What about a medical emergency? Is there a way to respond to that? Like if someone out here in their camp?
Yes and no. If you're on a boat, you're probably going to be a lot faster to get on your boat.
You just
and
get
go to a
yourself
boat
back.
launch. Correct.
Yeah.
I want to say that there was a scuffle on one of our sandbars 4th of July weekend, and the Sheriff's Department was actually dispatched, but by the time they got there, everything
It's all
was
broken
kind
up.
of broken up. So it's not really quick and fast in any means, but they're still there. I know Slidell Fire Rescue does a lot of swift water training in Friday's ditch right there. That way, if they ever come upon the need for swift water training, which really doesn't happen too much out here, we have a very good forewarning of when our river height's going to jump up. Always during the wintertime it's high. Anytime we have a lot of rains, it's going to jump up. So,
And you get upstream warnings too.
I'm sorry?
You get some sort of upstream warning.
Yeah, of course. Anywhere between here and Jackson that floods, gets rain, we're getting it down here as well.
My dad said it.
Yes, this is all drivable. This is all the back of Indian Village subdivision there.
Okay.
So, Pearl River is like less than a half a mile from my dad's house. So, I was like,
Grady Gred on the right there. If you look out on the second power line up at the top right, that big old nest, and that's that osprey nest. So past 5 years that has been a bald eagle's nest. This past year an osprey took it over. I'm not sure how that osprey outcompeted with that bald eagle, but there's another one on the fourth one. It fell between the trestles and hurricane-itis and no longer in use by a big bird like that.
What are those? Like flying around. I'm blind.
So, most likely a buzzard turkey vulture. This is the way that they're soaring like that. Every once in a while, those bald eagles or those ospreys will flap their wings, but those buzzards will get up in those gyres up in the wind. Good signal of death. Turkey buzzards are always around something that's dead.
No, just stop. Don't go over there.
So we have about a dozen bald eagles nests here in Slidell. 3 of them I know on the West Pearl River. So really neat to see those birds making a comeback. Mate for life, have about 24 birds here in the area. Big wingspan, about 6 to 8 feet. Need a nice wide open spot like that to make their home, right? Not able to fly through, traverse through our thick, dense swamps. So unfortunately those power lines make a great spot for them to build nests. Jeremiah's out here. So we have bullfrogs as well as pig frogs. Pig frogs are much smaller. They only have to be 3 inches from the nose to the anus for us to harvest. Bullfrogs have to be 5 inches. Those pig frogs, being so small, they emit a very, very loud grunt that sounds just like a pig. So it's really neat. In April and May when they're mating, you just hear what sounds like a pig grunting all the time, but it's always those pig frogs.
How big can they get?
I don't know the answer to that. I wouldn't think too much bigger than 5 inches or so.
Imagine falling massive.
Well, it depends what you're counting from the tip of the nose to the anus or from the nose to the feet. But I've seen people catch frogs up to 18 inches or so. But that's measuring from the nose to the feet, pressing them out, flattening them out. But nonetheless, that's a giant frog. So we actually did a frogging tournament Father's Day weekend, and across 4 boats we caught 143 frogs in 4 hours. So very, very plentiful out here. Another Grady Gret over there on the right hand side. That's a little different. This all will look like a water bottle hanging out over there.
I'm not even touching.
Was it a water bottle or was it a buoy?
Yeah, it was like a water bottle. It didn't look like someone threw trash out. That's right next to where they had that little ladder.
You have no idea.
That bottle is hanging there.
Over here checking their stuff out. Someone's thrown a bottle on purpose for that.
Unless someone used it as like a jug line and it got caught up in the stairs there, but I have no idea.
Yeah, it's tied off on the ladder.
airboats?
Yeah.
Airboats have a great utility, and that's for marshes. So they'll run through absolutely anything. They cannot go through a swamp. They do not have the maneuverability, the steerability, riding through a swamp.
Now for airboats.
Unfortunately, they are illegal on the Pearl River here. Just so much noise on them. You're going to scare a lot of wildlife off with them.
They also have you strapped in.
Kind of cool though.
Made it back. Good for your first day.
Okay.
That's their first day.
Everyone have a good trip.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any last minute questions for me?
We're good to go?
Y'all are welcome to get off then. Watch your head and watch your stuff there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good day.
I didn't hear somebody.